Welcome to the PathMonk Presents podcast. My name is Sean Donnelly Lewis, and I'm super excited about our episode today. Today, we're talking with Nick Talbert. He's the head of marketing at Quartile.com. Nick, what's going on?
Not too much, but happy to be here. Not too much at this particular moment. Got a lot going on at Quartile, but
Yeah, well, why don't you tell us about it? Quartile.com. What do you guys do?
so yeah, Quartile, we go through and we have a very efficient PPC platform for running across the Amazon ad space. Basically going out to anybody who's selling anything on Amazon, the seller accounts of all sizes. And they've figured out a very efficient way to organize your ASINs, and as well as sort of like micro optimize each campaign around the sort of keywords that drive, obviously the most product sales for you. And it's fairly straightforward, and it's really impressive.
Great. So when it comes to obviously, yeah, when it comes to clientele, you guys have a niche, right? It's only for people that build on Amazon. Or talk about your clientele for a second. Is it big people?
Yeah, you do look. I mean, this is tech. This is algorithmic based, mathematical computation basically on the back end. So one thing that we really need is data in order to sort of make the necessary decisions about which keyword to bid on for which ASIN, which overall product structure needs to be organized in such a way that it's the most efficient path to get you more sales, basically more revenue. And in order to do that, in order to build those models internally and that algorithm, we need the data. So you do need to be advertising on Amazon PPC programs to make use of us. Otherwise, the line between mathematical prediction and fairy dust gets fainter and fainter if you start to do it on very low set amounts of data. So while we do, we also manage other platforms, Instacart and some of the other Google, other areas like Google and such. We are, we're primarily focused on the Amazon seller audience, and sort of taking what they're doing on Amazon and expanding it across a multitude of platforms for e-commerce basically.
And so how have you guys been able to grow the business? Has it been just a lot of digital marketing? Has it been a lot of SEO?
Honestly, I'm pretty new to the company. They've just sort of they took on some investment not too long ago to kind of bring out sales and marketing in the US, and in pretty much everywhere. They've been on a pretty organic growth path, which is really impressive without a sales and marketing team to get to a particular point, which they're at in terms of revenue and also just product sophistication. That's one of the things that made me like really sort of jump at the chance to come work here, was like, oh my gosh, if they've gotten this far on just sheer, hey, we're putting up a couple of the no-brainer digital elements and just really good product recognition, then it's just like sprinkle a little marketing and sales on top, then we've got a very good proposition here.
Very cool. And so when it comes to growing the company, what role does the website play? I'm not really familiar with Amazon space, the Amazon space.
Basically our entire growth strategy will be digital based. I mean, everybody's growth strategy is digital based now, because when COVID came in, it sort of wiped out anything other than digital. And what I noticed at the time was like everybody who was sort of like on the fence about going, fully digitizing their marketing as an overall, practice, basically just dove into it in 2020 head first, whether by necessity. And the ones that didn't basically are probably not around anymore. And so digital is marketing now. I mean, there's nothing other than doing it, and it harnessing that growth Labor is a big challenge.
Sticking on the website just for a little bit longer, what would you say from a marketing perspective is the strength of the website right now? Is it the ability to convert, the quality of leads, user
I mean,
experience?
yeah, our website right now, like I said, we've gotten they've gotten very far with very little in terms of overall structure. What I think what they've done well so far is just make it very easy to sign up for the product and get a demo, and it's got a very efficient process. We're going to sort of continue on that in the next iterations, and we'll be launching new versions of the website, and new versions of a couple of different control mechanisms within things on that website, and also just sort of increasing our SEO, SEM presence as a whole.
And some of the changes that are coming, I understand marketing people, it's always the website is always a work in progress, isn't it? So if
Yeah,
you're
I mean, if the moment you think you've gotten through, all of the changes you need to make, all of a sudden there's a new device, there's a new, widget that's everybody's using that works amazingly, and you've got to go over and sort of see what that's all about. And you're like, well, yeah, that is actually a much better experience. And then you kind of begin again and start constantly retooling all over them. But nowadays it's getting a lot easier than it used to be.
Yeah, sure. So what are some of the things that you're looking to improve? You were just saying that you were trying to improve the website.
I mean, the chat flow on the website needs to be improved. The overall targeting of the pieces of content that our core audience is really focused on. I think there's different subsets of Amazon sellers out there, and we're trying to thread the needle to get to the ones that we really want to talk to, and trying to understand them, and then using the website, using communication as a whole as basically just reducing barriers to entry. Is my always thought was like, if you have a good product, people should flock to you. If it works, you should have a natural momentum there. And the difference between, I think, a really successful company and companies that aren't as successful is they're focusing on how difficult are you making it to have people pay you for your services. And if you're making that extremely difficult for them, then you're probably not selling very much. But if you are taking every opportunity to make sure that they are informed, educated, well understanding of the value, and all the way through the process, you seem to have magically known the answer before they were even going to ask it. Uh, you can take this whole process and just constantly sort of improve to where you're down, to where you're making, you're down to testing, like, oh, how many pixels should I have in between, my lines on my form? Like, when you're thinking about that level of detail on there, you've done a lot of other things right, and you're continuing to do the right things right, because damned if that doesn't make a half of a percent difference in the conversion rate, if you focus on that kind of stuff. And you're never finding anything that is, oh my god, I just jumped up 2% in my conversion rates. Nothing that high. It's like literally one decision that focuses on 0.025%, and then another decision, and then another decision, and another decision, and another decision. And you add up all those together, and now you've got, oh, my conversion rate just went from an average of 4% to an average of 8%. I had made 1,000 different changes and tweaks to the website, but I did increase it.
Now, coming back to what you guys do, just for everyone listening, what would you say is the main competitive advantage of what you guys offer opposed to other people that occupy the same space?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just in the way that the product was built. I hate to say this, but people who, a lot of times when you get engineers on a problem, especially engineers that are used to solving a problem a certain way. So, if you're a PPC management company that that came at this, as an extension of how Google runs their marketplace on a PPC marketplace. Amazon, you know, has a slightly different skew to that overall process. And I think when you bring new people in who have never really looked at either of the two systems, but are very, very good at, you know, creating the computational, you know, structure that gets you to the other side, you can find a lot of new ways and new understandings of how these objects sort of interact with each other in the digital space. So, you know, if you have a product on Amazon over here, there's going to be a certain microcosm of keywords that could lead you to that particular product. And so each product needs to have its own microcosm, you know, separately from all the other ASINs, you know, basically your product line that you have in there. And if you don't separate those out and you're optimizing, you know, for each individual keyword times each individual ASIN, like if you don't get down to the really, really nitty gritty stuff, like you're gonna see some improvement, but you're gonna level off and you're gonna plateau and you're gonna be pulling out your hair trying to figure out why isn't it, you know, why am I not getting any further? Why can't I sell, you know, any more laptop covers, or, you know, why can't I sell any more, you know, gummy bears, keto based gummy bears, or, you know, whatever the product is. And, you know, and the truth is that, you know, all of these algorithms out there, you have to have an equally good algorithm out, you know, basically operating on your behalf in order to get past all the technology layer that sits in between you and the you know, the audience that Amazon represents in the market, or the, you know, the overall marketplace that is Amazon.
And so just sticking on marketing for a second, I just want to pick your brain. What would you say is when I say a couple words, and you just tell me what you think the biggest challenge is in marketing when you hear these words. So when I say a word like innovation, what would you say is the biggest challenge in marketing?
Marketers' definition of innovation is different from the other parts of the company traditionally.
Hmm.
You know, marketers came from a place to where I think, I mean, you know, and this is, I'm lumping a giant group into one particular class, but like as a discipline, you're really, really trained in, you know, things like message architecture and you know, making sure that you're really fine tuning with the audience and doing a bunch of research and really knowing exactly who you are and getting the creative message just right. And all that stuff is important, but it's like it would be like going to the doctor and only 100% focusing on your knee. You know, I mean, and you know, not realizing that there's other things connected to your knee that needs to be focused on. And it just going down that particular route is just, I mean, it's just ineffective at, you know, at the end of the day.
And so when I say a word like ROI, or when I say a couple of words like return on investment, what would you say is the biggest challenge in marketing for ROI?
I mean, I think a lot of these are going to come back to the same ones. Is, you know, I mean, you know, to be a marketer today is honestly completely different. To be a successful marketer today is completely different than it was to be a successful marketer even 5 years ago, you know, 10 years ago. If you don't have an understanding of how all of these digital, you know, platforms are interacting with each other, you're kind of, I mean, I feel really, really bad for a lot of those people, just because it's like, oh, you don't realize that like what you're doing is not helping you. Like, I mean, like you think it's helping you, but like it's not, because you didn't, you know, you're not set up to have it help you in a way that is scalable. So, you know, like, you know, marketers, and I think that, you know, marketers got a huge dose of that this year when everybody tried to just jump into digital and realized, oh my geez, like, man, digital is really, it's hard.
Yeah.
Just because there's so many infinitely things you can focus on, and unless you've kind of been tasked with going in and making sure that that process is very, very smooth, you have no idea how many things you can focus on that actually will make a difference.
Right. And like you're saying,
Um,
it's so integrated, isn't it? It's so integrated into every other thing. It's hard to
I
quantify,
mean,
hard to qualify.
yeah, I mean, it's like unless you have a particular view of the world that can encompass both technology and how marketing and influence work within the sphere of that particular technology, you're operating with a hand tied behind your back,
Hmm.
at the end of the day. Because I mean, it's like, did you ever play the game Contra? Like,
Contra, I did. Legacy of War.
yeah. So that game was um endlessly fun, but also it was just, it was one giant loop. You never actually won the game. And you didn't realize this until someone came along and showed you the cheat codes, the up, down, A, B, blah, blah, blah. And then all of a sudden you were like, oh, like this game is much less, like I can actually like manage this game, even though it's an infinite loop. You had a lot more fun just because you had just infinite things to go out and just beat all of the whatever was coming at you. I don't really remember, but I just remember once you had the cheat codes, it was like, oh, this is how people like progress in this particular game. It's the same with like proper use of technology. Once you can kind of connect it all and you can see, oh well, you can literally sort of like follow the things, and as long as you're putting tracking mechanisms along all those things, you're like, oh, if you want more leads, like, okay, then here are the 5 things we need to do in order to get more leads. Like, if you want to improve your lead, conversion rate, here are the 5 things you need to do in order to improve that. And if you do those things and you do them well, they improve. Like, I
Hmm.
mean, it's not, but I think people want to make it harder than that to, I don't know, I mean, like maybe just like the internal struggle of right message, right media, right time, or whatever it was. But I mean, like, it's doable. You just have to measure the shit out of everything and track the
Hmm.
shit out of everything so that you can understand, oh, here are the 12 points that I really need to pay attention to. These other ones, if I show up there, grand, but I'm not really going to focus on those things.
And so thinking about improvement in marketing, if you could only focus on one of the following, um, which would you do? Would you focus more on road mapping, on growth initiatives, on marketing messaging, on reporting? Which one of those do you think is the thing?
I don't think any of those is the thing. I think the things are clearly being able to articulate the things that are your finding the things to track, basically, that are both leading indicators and lagging indicators of revenue, and being able to not 100% predict, but understand in a actionable enough time frame ahead of time what's likely to be coming your way.
Yeah,
So,
just
and
thinking.
having a production process that actually allows you to have the proper communication for your entire organization to deal with that.
Yeah, just thinking of switching gears here a little bit. I wouldn't mind talking about you as a leader. What kind of content do you consume to educate yourself and grow as a professional and as a person?
um I'm pretty sure I've got undiagnosed ADD, and I self-medicate through a bunch of other things to take care of that. But unless I've got a podcast or something going in my ears while I'm working, I start to drive myself crazy. So I keep a pretty steady stream of various podcasts running throughout the day. I do anything that is. I try to organize my day into where I'm taking in something business related, something technology related, and something culturally related every single day, and I just keep cycling between those things.
And all of them
Um,
being different podcasts, or do you read books? Do you do the
I was never really. So I mean, like when I was younger, I had a bit of dyslexia, so like reading in me just never really like was a thing. I would read a book kind of like a bird eats, just sort of like pecking at it, here and there, and trying to like discern what was going on from reading about every fifth page or so. Um, And so I've always found audiobooks and podcasts to be just a much better mechanism to actually have it sink in. So yeah, that's what I mostly use, is either audiobooks or podcasts.
Great. So since we're slowly coming to the end of the episode, I just want to start the rapid fire section. Now, we
Great.
talked about it before. If you want, you said you might have to hydrate, so you could make sure that you're ready to go. We're just going to jump in here. So, what was the last, you mentioned it, what was the last audiobook that you listened to?
The last audiobook I listened to was I re-listened to Malcolm Gladwell's David and Goliath.
Cool. What is the single thing that your company is focused on the most at the moment?
Lowering ACoS for Amazon sailors.
If there were no boundaries in technology, what would be the one thing you'd want to have fixed for your company today?
Oh, just one thing? I wish that there was a better, these are rapid fire, aren't they? I wish that you had a better connectivity between the organizational departments. So internally, having the real set of data all the time from each team's perspective on either a prospect or a customer is, it's always a difficult challenge.
What's the last thing that kept you awake at night about your company?
I sleep very well. But I guess the last thing to keep me awake, I was really torn a few nights ago about expanding our design colors, whether I wanted to expand it to some unusual colors or not. And
do it.
Well, it wasn't a big decision by any means. It was like, well, like, are we really a fuchsia kind of company? Can we pull that off? Or can we get in like a nice, periwinkle blue in there? I don't know. I mean, so it felt like a very big decision.
If you were to start your professional career over again, what would be the one piece of advice you give yourself?
I don't know. Don't go into marketing.
No.
Find something that is a more a less. No, fine. Go into marketing, but do it. Try not to take yourself so seriously while you're doing it.
All right, everyone. That was Nick
That
Talbert.
would have been impossible for me at that age, but
well, who knows? You're able to go back. Why not?
Sure.
Nick Talbert, everyone, from Quartile.com. Nick, the last part of our show, we always give our guests the last word. So if you want to sum up everything that you talked about your company, or if you feel like there's something we left out, I just want to give you the last word. The floor is yours.
If you are an Amazon seller or just any marketer in general, like, you need to leverage technology to be able to be successful. If you're trying to do it by yourself, you're doing it wrong and with 100-pound weight on your head.
Great last word. Weight on your head. Remember it. Nick Talbert. Thanks, Nick, for being on the show today.
Thanks, guys.